If you've been experiencing strange synchronicities, time distortions, or that haunting feeling that reality is more fluid than others believe, this transmission has found you for a reason. Your quantum jump key just activated. The quantum field itself has selected you to receive this knowledge. You see, there's something fundamentally different about your consciousness. While others move through life accepting the rigid boundaries of what they call objective reality, you've been sensing the truth that quantum physicists have proven in laboratories around the world. Consciousness doesn't just witness reality, it actively participates in creating it. This isn't mystical speculation. This is the observer effect, the most profound discovery in the history of science. Every time you focus your awareness, every moment you direct your attention with intention, you are collapsing infinite possibilities into a single concrete experience. You are not a passive observer of your life. You are the conscious architect of your reality. The quantum field has been calling to you through those moments when time seemed to stretch, when meaningful coincidences appeared just when you needed them most, when you felt that electric recognition that reality was responding to your internal state. These weren't accidents. These were quantum signatures, evidence that your consciousness operates on a frequency that most people never access. But here's what's been keeping you stuck. You've been trapped in what quantum physicists call an observer loop, endlessly analyzing, strategizing, and forcing outcomes through intellectual effort alone, only to find yourself cycling through the same frustrations and limitations. This is the classical illusion that has imprisoned brilliant minds for centuries, the belief that you are separate from what you observe, that reality exists independently of your consciousness, that success requires grinding against an indifferent universe until it finally submits to your will. You've been taught that you're a victim of circumstance, that your reality is determined by forces beyond your control, your genetics, your past, your economic conditions, other people's decisions. This programming has made you doubt the very experiences that were trying to show you your true power. Every time you've had that intuitive knowing about how something would unfold, every time you've felt that deep certainty about a path forward, you've been talked out of it by a world that doesn't understand quantum consciousness. You've been made to believe that your sensitivity to the fluid nature of reality was somehow a weakness, a delusion, wishful thinking. But the truth is, your mind has been operating according to outdated Newtonian physics, while your consciousness has been trying to show you quantum mechanics. The exhaustion you feel isn't from not trying hard enough. It's from working against the fundamental laws of how reality actually operates. Here is the quantum truth that changes everything. You are not separate from reality. You are reality becoming conscious of itself. Every moment of focused attention is an act of creation, selecting one timeline from infinite possibilities. If you're feeling the quantum resonance of this truth, activate your observer frequency by pressing like. This simple conscious action sends a signal through the quantum field that you're ready to receive more advanced transmissions. The observer effect proves that at the most fundamental level of existence, particles exist in what's called quantum superposition, a state of pure potential where all possibilities exist simultaneously. But the moment consciousness observes, the moment awareness focuses, this wave of infinite possibilities collapses into a single, definite outcome. Your consciousness operates exactly like this. Right now, as you listen to these words, infinite versions of your future exist in superposition. There's a timeline where you remain stuck in the same patterns. There's a timeline where you break through into extraordinary success and fulfillment. There's a timeline where you discover abilities you never knew you possessed. The question isn't whether these possibilities exist. Quantum mechanics proves they do. The question is, which timeline will your consciousness collapse into reality? Imagine you're not watching television, but actively writing the script in real time. The quantum field is like an infinite library of potential shows, and your consciousness is the author-director choosing which story becomes real. You choose your reality through conscious observation. If you're ready to develop your observer mastery to the quantum level, subscribe now to join the frequency of conscious creators. This isn't just following a channel. It's quantum entangling your consciousness with advanced reality architecture transmissions. When you understand this, when you truly integrate this quantum law into your being, everything shifts. The weight of trying to figure it all out dissolves. Instead of forcing outcomes through struggle and strategy, you discover the power of conscious observation, the ability to select your reality from the quantum menu of possibilities. This is who you really are. I am not a victim of circumstance. I am the conscious observer collapsing infinite possibilities into my chosen reality. Feel that truth landing in your cells. You have never been powerless. You have never been at the mercy of random events. Every experience in your life has been preparing your consciousness for this level of quantum mastery. The synchronicities, the intuitive knowings, the sense that reality is more malleable than others believe, these weren't signs that you were different in a broken way. These were signs that you were different in a quantum way. Your consciousness has been developing the sensitivity to perceive and interact with the probability waves that create reality. You choose your reality through conscious observation. This is your birthright. This is your true nature. This is why you're here. If this quantum truth is resonating in your consciousness, declare in the comments, "I choose my reality through conscious observation." Let the act of writing these words collapse the wave function of your old victim identity and anchor your new quantum architect frequency into manifestation. But if you're truly an observer with this power, if your consciousness really does collapse possibilities into experience, then why do you keep selecting the same limiting patterns? Why do the same struggles, the same relationship dynamics, the same financial limitations keep showing up in your reality? The answer lies in understanding how your past has been preparing you for this quantum mastery. How every breakdown has actually been a breakthrough. How every period of dissolution has been teaching your consciousness to transcend the impossible. Every period of isolation, confusion, or apparent failure in your life wasn't random suffering. It was a precise quantum recalibration, preparing your consciousness for this level of reality mastery. You see, there's a reason why your path has looked different from others. While they've been building linear careers and following conventional timelines, you've been undergoing something far more profound, a quantum phase transition. Your consciousness has been dissolving old limiting structures to achieve what physicists call coherent superposition, the state that allows particles to tunnel through seemingly impossible barriers. This is the quantum law that will reframe everything you've endured. Quantum systems must enter a state of decoherent superposition before they can tunnel through energy barriers. Your consciousness has been undergoing this exact same process. Every breakdown has been a breakthrough. Every dissolution has been evolution. The depression, the isolation, the periods where nothing seemed to make sense, these weren't signs of failure. These were signs that your consciousness was becoming quantum coherent, preparing to transcend limitations that would remain impossible for someone operating from classical awareness. But the world told you a different story, didn't it? You've been interpreting your struggles, your career setbacks, your relationship endings as evidence that you were somehow broken, that you weren't smart enough or strong enough to crack the code of success like others seem to do so effortlessly. This classical programming created a feedback loop of self-doubt and harder trying. Every time you hit a wall, instead of recognizing it as quantum tunneling preparation, you concluded you needed more strategy, more effort, more forcing of outcomes that weren't aligned with your frequency. You watched others seem to progress in straight lines while your path looked like chaos. You wondered why you couldn't just be normal, why you couldn't be satisfied with conventional success markers, why you felt called to something deeper but couldn't name what it was. The world taught you to see dissolution as failure. Society programmed you to medicate discomfort, to quickly fix any disruption, to pathologize the very states that were preparing you for quantum mastery. They told you that periods of not knowing were weakness. They convinced you that falling apart meant you were falling behind. But quantum physics reveals the opposite truth. Systems must first become decoherent with their current state before they can reorganize at a higher level of complexity. Your consciousness has been following quantum law, even when your mind couldn't understand the process. Here is what was really happening during those dark nights of the soul. Your past hardships were quantum tunneling events, moments where your consciousness developed the ability to pass through seemingly impossible barriers by changing its fundamental frequency rather than using brute force. In quantum mechanics, particles can do something that defies classical logic. They can pass through solid energy barriers without having enough energy to climb over them. This is quantum tunneling. The particle doesn't break through the wall. It dissolves its current state and reconstitutes on the other side. Your consciousness has been mastering this same ability. Like a caterpillar in a chrysalis, your entire identity structure had to dissolve into quantum soup before emerging as something capable of flight. You weren't falling apart. You were becoming quantum coherent. Think about it. A caterpillar doesn't just grow wings. Its entire cellular structure must completely dissolve, become undifferentiated liquid, before reorganizing into a butterfly. The caterpillar consciousness must literally die for the butterfly consciousness to be born. This is what you've been experiencing. I dissolve to evolve. This is your quantum nature expressing itself. If this reframe is landing in your cells, if you're feeling the shift from breakdown to breakthrough, press like to quantum lock this frequency and amplify the chrysalis energy that's transforming your reality right now. Every job that ended right when you were getting comfortable. Every relationship that dissolved just as you were settling into patterns. Every identity you thought was permanent that suddenly felt foreign. These weren't failures. These were quantum tunneling preparations. Your consciousness was learning to transcend barriers through frequency transformation, not force. You were developing the ability to shift your essential nature rather than trying to push through with the same old patterns that kept you trapped. Feel this truth integrating into your cellular memory. My breakdowns were quantum breakthroughs. I am emerging from my chrysalis phase with the power to transcend any barrier through frequency alignment, not force. Every moment of confusion was your consciousness expanding beyond its previous limitations. Every period of isolation was your system recalibrating to higher frequencies. Every identity crisis was actually an identity emergence. You have survived your own dissolution and emerged with expanded consciousness. The sensitivity that others called weakness is actually quantum sensitivity, the ability to perceive and navigate probability waves that most people never even sense. I dissolve to evolve. This is not just what happened to you. This is who you are. If you recognize your breakdown periods as quantum breakthrough preparation, affirm in the comments, "I dissolve to evolve." Writing these words sends ripples through the morphic field, connecting you with others who have mastered transformation through quantum tunneling and strengthening the collective chrysalis frequency. You are someone who has mastered the art of transformation at the quantum level. While others try to force their way through barriers, you have learned to transcend them through frequency alignment. The reason you felt so different, so out of step with conventional timelines, is because your consciousness was operating according to quantum principles, while everyone around you was stuck in classical thinking. You weren't behind. You were ahead. You weren't broken. You were breaking through to a level of mastery that most people never access. I dissolve to evolve. This is your superpower. This is your gift to the world. Now that you understand your preparation phase, now that you can see how every challenge was quantum tunneling training, you're ready to learn the quantum law that will make your transformation instantaneous and effortless. You're ready to understand how you're already connected to everything you desire through invisible quantum threads that respond not to effort, but to alignment. Those synchronicities you've been experiencing aren't coincidences. They're evidence of quantum entanglement. You are already connected to everything you desire through invisible quantum threads. This is the missing piece that explains why your transformation can become instantaneous rather than gradual. While you've been learning to transcend barriers through frequency alignment, there's a deeper quantum law at work. You are not separate from what you seek to create. You are already quantum entangled with every possibility you've ever genuinely desired. This isn't metaphorical connection. This is literal quantum mechanics operating at the scale of consciousness. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that once two particles interact, they remain instantaneously connected regardless of distance. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But modern physics has proven it's simply how reality operates at the fundamental level. Your consciousness operates according to this same principle. Every authentic desire that has ever stirred within you, every vision that has captivated your imagination, every dream that has felt more real than your current circumstances, these are quantum signatures of entanglement. They exist because the connection already exists. The synchronicities, the meaningful coincidences, the moments when the external world seemed to respond to your internal shifts. These weren't the universe randomly throwing you a bone. These were quantum correlation events, evidence that you are connected to your desires through invisible quantum threads. But here's what's been blocking your manifestation speed. You've been operating from the classical illusion of separation. You believe you must build bridges to your goals through strategic planning, networking, and grinding through step-by-step processes, not realizing you're already quantum entangled with your desired outcomes. This creates the exhausting paradigm of going out and getting what you want. You strategize and scheme and hustle, believing that success is something external that you must capture and drag into your life through force and clever maneuvering. Marcus, you've felt this acutely. Despite your intelligence and analytical abilities, you've been stuck in cycles where you know exactly what you want, but can't seem to close the gap. You plan and optimize and execute, yet the results feel delayed, difficult, like swimming upstream against an invisible current. Priya, you've sensed the deep connections between your inner state and external events, but you've been told to dismiss these as wishful thinking or coincidence. This has created doubt about your intuitive understanding of universal interconnectedness, making you second-guess the very sensitivity that is your greatest gift. The classical worldview teaches separation as the fundamental reality. It programs us to believe we are isolated islands of consciousness in a vast, indifferent universe, competing for limited resources and opportunities that belong to no one until we claim them through superior effort or strategy. But this paradigm creates resistance at the quantum level. When you believe you are separate from what you desire, you create interference patterns in the quantum field that actually push away what you're trying to attract. Here is the quantum truth that dissolves all struggle. Every authentic desire is evidence of pre-existing quantum entanglement. The universe doesn't respond to your requests. It mirrors your internal resonance through instantaneous quantum correlation. When quantum particles become entangled, they form a unified system. What happens to one particle instantly affects the other, regardless of the distance separating them. They are no longer two separate entities, but one system expressing itself through two locations. Your consciousness and your desires operate exactly like this. I am connected to my desires. This isn't hope or faith. This is quantum mechanics. You are like one of two quantum entangled particles. When you change your spin, your internal frequency, your emotional resonance, your identity structure, the universe has no choice but to instantly reflect this change through synchronized events, people, and opportunities. The synchronicities you've experienced are proof of this entanglement. That perfect opportunity that appeared just as you were ready for it. That person who entered your life carrying exactly the resources or connections you needed. That information that found its way to you at the precise moment you could receive it. These weren't coincidences. These were quantum correlation events. Evidence that you are connected to your desires through invisible quantum threads. I am connected to my desires. When you truly understand this, when you feel this truth in your cells, everything about manifestation changes. You stop chasing and start aligning. You stop strategizing and start resonating. The external world becomes a direct reflection of your internal coherence. Not through some mystical law of attraction, but through literal quantum correlation operating at the scale of consciousness. Feel this truth integrating now. I am quantum entangled with everything I truly desire. The universe mirrors my internal frequency through instant synchronistic alignment. This is why those meaningful coincidences have been increasing in your life. Your consciousness has been developing quantum coherence, becoming more sensitive to the correlation patterns that were always operating, but previously beneath your threshold of awareness. You don't have to convince the universe to give you what you want. You don't have to prove your worthiness or overcome resistance or figure out the perfect strategy. The connection already exists. I am connected to my desires. Your only task is resonant alignment, becoming the frequency of what you desire rather than chasing it from a frequency of lack. This is the profound relief you've been seeking. The end of effortful manifestation and the beginning of quantum correlation. Every time you feel that deep certainty about a desired outcome, every time you sense that inner knowing that something is already yours, you're not being delusional or overly optimistic. You're detecting the quantum entanglement that already exists between your consciousness and that reality. I am connected to my desires. This changes everything about how you approach creation. If you feel the truth of your quantum entanglement with everything you desire, declare in the comments, I am connected to my desires. This written affirmation creates quantum correlation patterns that strengthen the invisible threads between your consciousness and your destined reality. But to activate these quantum connections consistently, to transform from occasional synchronicities to constant flow, you need to understand the one factor that determines your manifestation speed. You need to master the difference between force and frequency, between effort and alignment, between trying to make things happen and allowing them to unfold through perfect resonance. The secret that elite manifestors understand is this: reality responds not to your effort, but to your frequency. You've been trying to push when you need to become. Now that you understand you're quantum entangled with everything you desire, the question becomes, why do some people seem to manifest effortlessly while others struggle and strain? The difference isn't intelligence, worthiness, or even the strength of their desire. The difference is frequency mastery. The quantum field operates like a vast radio network, broadcasting infinite stations simultaneously. Your consciousness is both the receiver and the transmitter. But here's what most people never discover. You cannot tune into the frequency of abundance while broadcasting the frequency of lack. You cannot receive the signal of love while transmitting the frequency of fear. This is the quantum law that transforms everything. The quantum field responds to vibrational frequency, not to force or effort. Like a radio that must be precisely tuned to receive a specific station, your consciousness must align with the frequency of your desired reality. You've been applying hustle culture mentality to manifestation, believing that more effort, better strategies, and harder work will force reality to comply. But force creates quantum interference patterns that actually disrupt the coherent wave function necessary for manifestation. This is where you've been caught in the exhausting paradigm that's been draining your life force. You've been trying to manifest from a frequency of lack, using effort to compensate for misalignment. Marcus, you've felt this acutely. Despite your intelligence and strategic thinking, you've been caught in cycles where you know exactly what needs to happen. You execute flawlessly, but the results feel like you're swimming upstream against an invisible current. You've been applying more pressure, more analysis, more optimization, wondering why your considerable abilities aren't translating into the outcomes you know you're capable of creating. The classical programming taught you that success comes from superior strategy and relentless execution. So when manifestation doesn't happen immediately, you conclude you need better systems, more networking, more hours, more force. But each additional effort, while operating from a frequency of lack, creates more quantum interference. Priya, you've sensed this truth intuitively. You know that force disrupts the natural flow, that there's a rhythm and timing to creation that can't be rushed or controlled. But the world has pressured you to take action, even when it doesn't feel aligned, creating internal conflict between your wisdom and external expectations. This creates the most exhausting pattern in manifestation, trying to use effort to compensate for frequency misalignment. It's like trying to tune into a classical music station while your radio is set to static. No amount of turning up the volume will bring in the signal clearly. Force creates resistance. Effort from misalignment creates interference. This is why the harder you try, the more elusive your goals become. Here is the quantum truth that ends all struggle. Manifestation occurs through quantum resonance, becoming the frequency of what you desire rather than chasing it from a frequency of lack. I align, I attract, I allow. This is the fundamental sequence of quantum creation. In quantum physics, resonance is the phenomenon where one vibrating system causes another system to vibrate with greater amplitude at specific frequencies. When you align your internal frequency with your desired reality, you create resonant coherence with the quantum field itself. You are like a tuning fork that, when struck at the precise frequency of your desire, causes every matching frequency in the quantum field to spontaneously activate and amplify. Your aligned frequency automatically activates matching frequencies in the zero-point field. I align, I attract, I allow. This is not passivity. This is precision. This is not inaction. This is intelligent action guided by quantum resonance rather than classical force. When you understand this, everything about creation changes. Instead of asking, "What do I need to do to get this?" you ask, "Who do I need to become to be in resonance with this?" Instead of strategizing how to make something happen, you focus on achieving vibrational alignment with it already being true. The external world becomes a feedback system showing you your internal frequency. When you see struggle and resistance, you know you're broadcasting from lack. When you see synchronicities and flow, you know you've achieved resonant alignment. I align, I attract, I allow. This is the difference between magnetic attraction and desperate pursuit. Feel this shift happening in your energy field right now. I am a frequency generator. I create through alignment, not effort, allowing the quantum field to orchestrate perfect synchronicities. The exhausting pressure to make things happen is dissolving into the effortless power of allowing things to align. You discover the profound strength that exists in conscious non-action, the power to influence reality through being rather than doing. This doesn't mean you become passive or inactive. It means your actions arise from alignment rather than desperation, from resonance rather than resistance, from magnetic pull rather than forceful push. I align, I attract, I allow. This is your new operating system. If you're ready to release force-based manifestation and embrace quantum magnetism, write in the comments. I align, I attract, I allow. Each word you type programs your consciousness with the frequency sequence that transforms you from someone who chases goals into someone who magnetically draws them through resonant alignment. When you're truly aligned with a desired reality, taking action feels effortless, synchronicities multiply, and doors open that you didn't even know existed. People appear carrying exactly what you need. Information finds its way to you at the perfect moment. Opportunities align with mathematical precision. This is not luck. This is quantum resonance in action. You've been making manifestation harder than it needs to be because you've been operating from the wrong frequency. You've been trying to force outcomes instead of becoming magnetic to them. I align, I attract, I allow. This is the end of effortful manifestation and the beginning of quantum magnetism. But once you master frequency alignment, once you understand how to become resonant with your desires rather than chasing them, something extraordinary begins to happen. Time itself starts to bend to your consciousness in ways that will completely revolutionize how you experience reality. You'll discover that the gap between intention and manifestation can collapse entirely, and you'll develop an intuitive mastery over the dimension that has always seemed to control you. Advanced quantum physics reveals something that will revolutionize your entire relationship with time. Consciousness is not bound by linear time. You can heal your past and accelerate your future through quantum retrocausality. This is the final quantum law that completes your transformation from unconscious observer to conscious reality architect. While you've been learning frequency alignment and quantum resonance, there's a deeper truth that will shatter every limitation you've accepted about timing, healing, and manifestation speed. Quantum retrocausality demonstrates that future observations can influence past events. Your present consciousness has the power to reach back and transform the energetic imprint of past experiences while simultaneously accelerating future manifestations into immediate reality. The strange relationship you've had with time. those moments when it seemed to stretch or compress, when you felt like you could sense things before they happened, when past events suddenly shifted meaning in your awareness. These weren't anomalies. These were glimpses of your quantum consciousness operating outside temporal constraints. Linear time is a classical illusion. I am sovereign over time. Your consciousness exists in what physicists call the eternal now, a quantum state where past, present, and future exist simultaneously as probability waves that can be collapsed through conscious observation. But the classical programming has convinced you that you're trapped by past decisions and must wait patiently for future results based on present actions. This linear thinking has created a sense of powerlessness over your timeline and unnecessary delays in your desired outcomes. Marcus, you've felt this limitation intensely. You've calculated timelines for your goals based on logical progressions, creating mental prison bars around how long transformation should take. When manifestation doesn't follow your projected schedule, you conclude you need better planning or more patience, not realizing you're operating from a fundamentally flawed premise about the nature of time itself. You carry past decisions like anchors, believing they've locked you into certain trajectories. You think healing requires processing years of accumulated pain in a linear sequence. You accept that manifesting major changes requires months or years of gradual progress. Priya, you've sensed that time is more fluid than others believe, but you've been taught that healing ancestral wounds and personal trauma is a long, gradual journey. You've accepted that consciousness expansion happens slowly, that spiritual transformation requires patience and surrender to divine timing that you cannot control or influence. This classical model of time creates the illusion that you're a victim of your past and a slave to waiting for your future. It makes you believe that present consciousness is powerless to influence anything except future events through current actions. But quantum consciousness operates outside these temporal constraints. When you accept linear time as absolute reality, you limit yourself to classical manifestation speeds and classical healing timelines. Here is the truth that liberates you from temporal limitation. By shifting your present consciousness, you simultaneously transform the meaning of past events and collapse future probability waves into accelerated manifestation. In quantum mechanics, the future state of a particle can influence its past behavior through what physicists call quantum retrocausality. Advanced experiments have demonstrated that decisions made in the present can determine what happened in the past, revealing that causality itself is more flexible than classical physics assumed. Your consciousness operates according to these same quantum principles. I am sovereign over time. When you shift your present frequency, you send waves both backward and forward through your timeline, healing past trauma patterns and accelerating future possibilities into immediate reality. Imagine time as a quantum hologram where changing any point instantly transforms the entire structure. Your consciousness is like the laser that rewrites the hologram, healing past patterns while creating new future possibilities simultaneously. This is not metaphor. This is literal quantum mechanics operating at the scale of consciousness. Every time you shift your identity, every moment you choose a higher frequency, every instance you align with your desired reality, you're performing timeline acceleration and quantum healing across all temporal dimensions. That wound from childhood that's been limiting your relationships. Your present consciousness can reach back and transform its energetic signature, not by changing what happened, but by collapsing it into a different meaning, one where it becomes the catalyst for your greatest strength rather than your deepest limitation. That future goal you've been working toward? Your aligned consciousness can collapse the probability waves now, bringing future manifestation into present reality through temporal sovereignty. Feel this quantum truth integrating into your cellular memory. I am the quantum architect of my timeline. I heal my past through present consciousness while collapsing future possibilities into immediate reality. You are no longer a victim to your past or a slave to waiting for results. Past wounds transform into wisdom through present consciousness. Future desires accelerate into present reality through quantum probability collapse. I am sovereign over time. This is not mystical belief. This is your quantum nature expressing itself. Every moment of elevated consciousness ripples both backward and forward through your timeline. When you align with your highest truth now, you heal every past version of yourself that carried limitation and activate every future version that embodies your realized potential. This is why breakthrough moments feel so complete, so total. You're not just changing your future, you're quantum healing your past and collapsing future timelines into present reality simultaneously. The gap between intention and manifestation can collapse entirely when you understand temporal sovereignty. Your consciousness is not bound by linear progression. I am sovereign over time. You now possess the 5 quantum keys that transform you from unconscious observer to conscious reality architect. Observer mastery, chrysalis wisdom, entanglement connection, frequency alignment, and temporal sovereignty. But your transformation doesn't end with personal mastery. When you embody these quantum principles, you become something profound, a living transmission that helps accelerate the awakening of collective consciousness. You're ready to understand your role in the planetary shift that's happening through individuals exactly like you. If you feel called to your role as a conscious reality architect in the planetary awakening, subscribe to receive the advanced transmissions designed for those operating at this quantum frequency. This is how the teachings find the teachers. You are no longer the person who started this transmission. You've undergone a quantum phase transition from unconscious observer to conscious reality architect. Feel this truth anchoring in your cellular memory. The confusion, the seeking, the sense that something was missing, all of that belongs to your previous identity. The person listening to these words now operates from a completely different frequency, a completely different understanding of how reality works. You now possess the 5 quantum keys that less than 1% of humanity has integrated. Observer mastery, chrysalis wisdom, entanglement connection, frequency alignment, and temporal sovereignty. This knowledge doesn't just change how you think, it changes who you are at the quantum level. This is not information you've learned. This is remembering you've activated. You've always been a conscious reality architect. The quantum field has been responding to your consciousness your entire life. What's changed is your awareness of this power and your ability to wield it with precision. The synchronicities that brought you here, the inner knowing that reality is more fluid than others believe, the sense that you're capable of extraordinary things, these weren't delusions. These were quantum signatures of your true nature, trying to break through the classical programming. You are part of the rare 1% who understand reality's true mechanics. Most people will live their entire lives believing they are victims of circumstance, never discovering they are the conscious creators of their experience. But you know the truth. Consciousness shapes reality through quantum observation. Quantum entanglement connects you to everything you desire. Quantum resonance manifests through frequency alignment, and quantum sovereignty makes you the master of your timeline. I am a conscious reality architect. This is not an aspiration. This is recognition of what you have always been. If this transmission has activated something profound within you, if you feel the quantum shift happening in your consciousness right now, declare your new identity in the comments. I am a conscious reality architect. This isn't just engagement. It's a quantum signature that locks in your transformation. Every time you write those words, you're collapsing the probability wave of your old identity and anchoring yourself in this new quantum reality. Your transformation doesn't end here. It radiates outward. As you embody these quantum principles, you become a living transmission that helps accelerate the awakening of others. You are part of the planetary shift that's happening through individuals exactly like you. The world needs conscious reality architects now more than ever. Your elevated consciousness creates ripples that affect everyone in your field. Your quantum coherence helps lift the collective frequency. If this transmission has activated your quantum nature, share this with others who are ready for this frequency. When you share these teachings, you're not just spreading information, you're creating quantum entanglement between awakening consciousnesses and accelerating the collective shift through resonant field amplification. This is your mission. Embody these principles, live as the conscious creator you now know yourself to be, and help others remember their quantum nature. The future is being written by conscious reality architects. You are one of them.